Calling to order the February 28th, 2024 Economic Development Committee meeting.
All right, and we'll start with roll call. Alicia Ness. Here. Adam Royds.
Here.
Sonny Kreitz.
Here.
Steve Langley.
Here.
John Wallace is absent with prior notice. Carol Noker.
Here.
Erica Winston.
Here.
Dan Hartman.
Here.
And Pat Luce is absent with prior notice.
Okay. Motion to approve the minutes from the January 24th meeting.
Chairwoman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Yep.
Steve seconds. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then reports. First up is Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, new members since the last meeting, Timeless Event Center, GT Tow Service, North Kansas City Hospital, and Stephanie Door Homes Remax Revolution. Events coming up, we've got the awards banquet tomorrow. Rise and Shine is March 6th, sponsored by Agent Joe. The luncheon for March is on the 13th, sponsored by Platte Clay Electric. Our Easter egg hunt is on March 30th. We are looking for sponsorship for that, so anybody interested in helping out with that would be great. And then our Lunch and Learn with the Missouri EDC is going to be on March 22nd at 11:30. You do have to register. There's a limit to 35. And you can do that on the chamber website calendar. Yes,
Yes, and it's been posted to social media.
and we
today.
have one registered already. That's it. I'm good.
You ready for me?
Yep.
Okay, I will just give a quick update. The transportation facility, now that the weather hopefully is not going to cause any more issues, is on track. High school gym, that construction, and I didn't realize this until I today, actually, that will start May 6th so that they can have it ready for spring sports or fall sports, sorry. Look for that, as well as the HVAC improvements. Those will start at the end of May at the middle school. Green Tie Affair, which is one of our real world learning events, that is scheduled for March 14th. I know I have a few of you signed up, but if it's something you're interested in participating in, just let me know. I've got most of my needs fulfilled as far as panelists and interviewers, but I can always shuffle around if you want to participate in that. We have about 120 intro to business students in particular doing the presenting their business plans, their pitches, but we also have project management students, broadcasting students. What else? I'm missing a couple. We're total about 170 students are going to be participating in one way, shape, or form, kind of displaying what they're doing as far as real world learning projects. So if you have a chance even to just come by, it's at the PAC from 8 to 11 on the 14th of March. And then last, the district is putting on what they're calling a community warrior color run. It's just a fun run on March 19th. Registration is free. There's a t-shirt that goes with it. Register your whole family. I know they've got, last I heard, like 350 registered. They want to get to at least 500 to just come down. It's all about the Hope Squad is putting it on. It's all about the community is what it's all about. They'll have food trucks. They'll have students kind of talking about what they do in the schools and just come and share some community. I believe probably at the track, I would assume down the, yeah.
Is it a 5K, like 3 miles?
Not a 5K, it's
No.
just a fun run.
Oh, okay.
I thought it said 5K on the website,
Did it?
but it may just be run as long as you can stand it.
Walk, yeah, it's a run walk.
I may have
Let me
looked
look
wrong
and see if it,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know that they've said it's necessarily a 5K, but yeah, because it's not timed. There's no timing.
I feel like we should say that's like 3 miles because for some odd reason we call it 5K. That's like metrics. It's like the only thing we use metrics for is like these
Yeah.
runs.
Yep.
Yep.
It's 3 miles.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Chairwoman's report.
Yep, the only thing that I have is just a continuation of the public art discussion. Gina and I are still working behind the scenes on clarifying a couple of things. With the extension, we have a conference call scheduled tomorrow, I think,
Mm.
to kind of double check a few things and get the extension's opinion on a couple of options. So that's all I have.
Right. And then for the staff report, I have a couple of things that I'll bring up. So here is our quarterly update, for the economic development data. I did want to change this a little bit and start lining it up with the fiscal year budget, just so it makes kind of more sense. We provide quarterly updates to the Board of Aldermen. So this will start being in line with those updates. So at the next Alderman meeting, on the work session on March 5th, we'll be presenting the Q1 budget update. So tune in for that if you want to find out more information. Sales tax, our revenue data is looking good compared to last year. We're up over 8%. Use tax is coming in very well. So that's our online shopping, capturing that city sales tax. It is 39.12% over this time last year. So that is a big indicator that a lot of people are shopping online. And this data is for November through January. So we might be getting some holiday shopping, things like that. So it'll be interesting to monitor those trends.
Is anyone doing any inflation adjusting? Because it may not be that people are like increasing their shopping. It could just be that the prices have gone up
Right.
and that means your
And
tax
that's-
revenue is going to go up as
Yeah,
well.
and that's our consideration as well as prices are going up, we're gonna be seeing increased revenue on that side as well. But it's not adjusted for the pricing. It's just, this is what's coming in compared to last year.
Gina, for the EDC board, they may
Mhm.
not realize our fiscal year is very different. Do you want to talk about that a little bit with the city of Smithville?
Yeah, so for our fiscal year begins on November 1st and it ends on October 31st. So just to better line up with that, we used to do calendar updates or calendar year quarterly updates for the EDC. And it just makes more sense to move to the fiscal year since that's how everything else is lined up. And then so far for this year, we have 14 scheduled events. For special events, Matt is working on getting a few more on the books, so we should see more special events, especially happening downtown. We've had 531 business license renewals. So these are the amount of active business licenses we have on file. Permits issued, it's looking pretty similar for last year's comparison. We have 2 for this quarter. We aren't seeing as many completed, but again, with the winter months, a lot of construction slows. So hopefully for residential, we'll see more coming online. And then very similar for commercial for the permits issued and then completed. We just haven't had a lot completed this quarter, but those will continue to come in. As you can see, when you drive around, there's a lot of construction going on, so those will continue to come in.
What would be an example of a commercial permit issued?
So some of them might be like a tenant finish of redoing a storefront, like what's going on with the Fairview Crossing by McDonald's, that's a commercial permit. So those are the kinds of ones getting issued.
The business license renewals, are those on like a spreadsheet anywhere? Is that how they track it?
So it's through our financial software system. Once you get all of the information needed for renewal, it gets inputted.
Is there any way to add like metadata to categorize the
So
businesses?
we've talked about that before. Right now, we don't have the capability, but we're about to go through the second half of our financial software migration. So those are the kind of questions I'm going to be asking when we go through that.
'Cause I'm curious, 531, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious what some of those are.
Mhm. Any other questions on the quarterly update? Okay, and then at the last meeting, we talked about marketing specifically at Smith's Fork. I've been working with our Parks and Rec department on coming up with a brochure to give to campers after they check in. The camp host would be handing them a brochure with a QR link to that website that will have all of the linked websites for Visit Clay Moe, the Chamber, Smithville Main Street District, and then any other kind of community group that would have events going on. And then they're gonna have more information about what to do in the area, like trails, how to get around. So we're hoping that'll be more beneficial for visitors and have it posted around the campsite as well. So depending on how that goes, then we'll be able to roll it out at a larger scale next year. And that's all for my report. The next items that I had was for the discussion item for replica.
I'm good with going on to that.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So at the last meeting, we talked about wanting to look at replica. And in the packet, I included replicas definitions of different categories, like when people are making trips to home, work, retail, those different categories that they have. So right now, the trend data is through spring of 2023. I think in the next month, we're supposed to be getting the fall 2023 data, so I'll be able to update this basically on a quarterly basis as well as that information comes in. So what I did, I broke down each major category for Smithville residents and where they are going for their trips. So right here, you can see a typical weekday categories, the majority of people and the weekend. Majority of trips are going home, shopping, a social event, specifically on the weekday, you see work at a higher percentage, eat, going to restaurants, errands. The weekday, you can see a percentage of school, going to schools, obviously, for during the week. And then recreation. Those are the major categories for our Smithville residents. So specifically for work trips, you can see that predominantly people are going to Kansas City to work, followed by Smithville. And then after that, you can see the trickle down of where everybody is going to work. So for a typical weekday, 17.7% of people are staying in Smithville for work. For a typical weekend, 20.6% of people are staying in city limits for their work. So that's just an area, like we've mentioned at past meetings, we're working on that South Overlay District Employment Center. So those are the kinds of things that we'll be talking about once we get a consultant approved by the Board of Aldermen to kind of target that workforce.
Are there any best practices or recommendations for how much does that number should we want? 20, is 17 good, 25 better, 30 better? Is there anyone who said what's an ideal percentage of people that you want working and living in your town? Like a goal?
I don't think I can look if there's an ideal, but just from my first blush is we would want Smithville to be the top category for Smithville residents, providing more opportunities for people to work, live, and play here,
What this does for us too, though, is it begins to establish a baseline, right? I
Mhm.
mean, and then as we get those updates, we can begin to see trends.
And then the next category is social. So you can see here, a lot of people actually stay in Smithville for the social category, followed by Kansas City. Out of geo breakdown, that's just unincorporated areas. And And then followed by, it kind of just drops off after that of Trimble, Kearney, Gladstone. So that is good to see that a lot of the social trips are staying in here.
What is that percentage? I can't, I'm
Oh,
blind.
for Smithville, it is 39.3 during the weekday and then 38.9 for the weekend. Yeah. So the top three is Smithville, Kansas City, and then out of geo breakdown, just with how Replica's done, if it's not an actual city, it won't capture it. So that's your county unincorporated areas. Yes.
Field parties.
Yeah.
Big-
Or people who have like friends out in the county, you go to
Mm.
visit your friend.
Mhm.
I was just thinking about how many people would go to the lake, because the lake's not in
Right.
the city.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what that's capturing as well. And then for shopping trips specifically, you can see that Smithville is slightly higher than Kansas City. So Smithville during the week is at a 36.7%. And the weekend is 38.5, followed by Kansas City is 33.2 for the weekday and then 34.8%.
I love that. All that shop local jazz.
That's
awesome.
fantastic.
I'm sure they can't break
Really
it down, but
is.
I imagine that's like Barry Road area. I gotta imagine that when it.
Yeah,
comes
so I
to,
can
like,
break it down by zip code. It just got a little funky with the data because our zip code is also in Kansas City, so I didn't feel like it was capturing what we wanted to see. But yeah, I can't see specifically where people are going. It's more aggregate. But the shopping category, that's automobile dealers, gas stations, grocery stores, postal service, pharmacies and drugstores, and retail shops. So it is nice to see that at least for spring 23, we were ahead of Kansas City for residents.
Go team.
And then errands, again, Smithville led in this category at 37.1% for the weekday and then 38.5 for the weekend. Kansas City was at 26.7% for the weekday and then 34.8 for the weekend. And then,
I like that they have trips.
yeah. Mm-hmm. And then for eating specifically, again, Smithville was in the lead at 40.3% in the weekday. And then 32.6 was for Kansas City. For the weekend, it was 41.4%, followed by 34.4 for Kansas City.
What's included in eat?
So eat is trips to restaurants.
So an oddball thing like the restaurant at Price Chopper wouldn't be included.
Probably not.
Yeah. gotta
Mm-mm.
be
No, it would be in
fast
the
food
general,
restaurant.
yeah. And then as you can see underneath, we have 2,500 trips by a little over 2,000 trip takers. So you can start to see how many people are actually taking trips just for that. And start to target, marketing efforts of like, okay, if we want people to eat in Smithville more, how do we get them to take more trips? How do we generate that?
Have more restaurants.
Right.
Well, I mean, what's interesting is there's no other towns. That's promising because that means you're not competing with other small towns. That means all we have to do is just every year chip away at Kansas City. You know what I mean? So that's encouraging.
And then for recreation, since we talked about a little bit about the out of geo breakdown for unincorporated, you can see our zip code 64089 is very in the lead for the weekday and the weekend at 59% for the weekday, and the weekend is 60.5%. I was surprised seeing that the trips were so low for 780 trips for a typical weekday, since we are in a predominantly recreational area. So I thought that might be an area to market a little bit more of what to do in Smithville for residents. So just interesting to see. And then I know we've talked about hotels, so I did want to do a caveat of lodging specifically. So this is not for residents. This is for people coming specifically to Smithville to stay at the hotels. And as you can see, a typical weekday in spring 23 was 68 trips to a hotel. And out of, yes, to Smithville to stay at a hotel. And then for the weekend, it was 90 trips.
And you have to wonder if that is a lower number because there isn't a hotel option, or maybe they don't want to stay at the available locations.
Right.
They need a swimming pool in their hotel or something, you know,
Right.
they have different.
Yeah, and that was their definition for replica was includes all trips by visitors to overnight accommodations such as a hotel. So I'm not really sure if this is capturing Airbnbs or not. That's something I would like to clarify with
So this-
replica.
This is people that stayed overnight in Smithville. So we're
Mhm.
not capturing at all those that came here for something and then left and weren't able to stay here. So this
Right.
doesn't really give us any idea what we're missing. It's just
Mhm.
what we're catching.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so low. There's no way.
You can kind of
And-
look at the capacity of what you have for lodging and come up with some judgment. To me, those numbers are low. Not that the numbers are wrong. It's just they look low.
Right. And, we've talked about where we don't really have places for people to stay or they go outside of the city. So that's just something to keep in mind of. This is at least what the data is telling us. We don't know the full story. These are just the numbers. And then something I'd like to continue to explore is instead of focusing on residents, focus on, okay, who aren't residents of Smithville, why are they coming to Smithville? What's the trips? So we can kind of get both sides of the story.
It'd be interesting to find out from Replica if they do consider Airbnb. I know there's a management company that resides in Smithfield that has quite a few because we've increased, the last couple of years in Airbnbs, and I think the city will be able to provide probably here in the next few months, really how many now, because of our current ordinances, how many are licensed and operating in Smithville. So I'm looking forward to seeing that data as well. Oh, my guess is just based on looking at it, probably anywhere between 8 and 12. There may be more, but I'm talking 64089. But they're single family residents that some are multifamily, but single family that could reside up to 12 people, and so.
And that is the end of at least that data, but I'll continue to look into that. Yeah, it was definitely fun to dive into. Great. Is there any other kind of data from Replica you'd like to see on an ongoing basis?
I think what you have is just, it'd be great, like I said, to continue to
Mhm.
look at that at our future EDC meetings. It's pretty fascinating.
In those trend lines, like, just watching it every year to see like whether or not we are taking, more businesses we have here, people are not going to the Northland down to Barry Road for all the retail down there.
Mhm.
So that's good to have those numbers.
So you said your next go around will be to look at non-residents,
Mhm.
and it'd be kind of the same cut of shopping, eating.
Yeah, it would be the same categories, so then we can start to see, okay, how many trips are we getting to Smithville in these categories and where are they coming from? And that's, you can also dive into more demographic data of, income, race, and just in general, like how far people are willing to drive. So that can really help with marketing as a whole for businesses as well.
Can you peel out gas stations?
I can't with the trends data. It kind of just aggregates kind of everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about boaters coming in, filling up and heading to the lake and don't do anything in town.
Right. Yeah, that's the one downside. With Replica, we can't get as specific as we would like to be with certain things.
Boat peels the onion pretty well, but it's.
Yeah, it's
more-
like I just want to
more
get the
days
layers
to
back a
see,
little
right.
more.
You just want to see more layers.
Yes.
And that would be interesting, just in the sense of, because you think about the convenience stores we have in Smithville, and boaters stopping there and getting supplies for the lake or whatever. And I mean, that would be rolled into our sales tax data, but the fuel is an interesting question because we don't necessarily gain sales tax revenue from the fuel buy here in Smithville, right? It's a statewide formula that we do get. Don't get me wrong, we get sales tax revenue.
Yeah.
It's just a statewide formula. So if you or I purchased all our fuel here, it doesn't necessarily mean.
That all of that tax goes to Smithville.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, it's a specific formula for motor fuel tax.
Interesting, yeah.
Mhm.
Grocery store. We really only have one big grocery store, but you.
We do, but Dollar General would be a groceries.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, there's,
Quick Trip. I mean,
quick-
some
yeah.
of them are big enough. They have. But it doesn't peel out grocery stores.
No, it's combined in that retail
Okay.
category.
And the reality is Walmart is cheaper. When you only have one grocery store, you don't get the competition to help kind of lower those prices, and Walmart's such a big player, so it wouldn't surprise me if a fair amount of people were still driving down to like the Walmart area to get their groceries instead of up here at Price Chopper.
I would venture to guess Costco and Aldi are
Same of them.
probably
Get it
the
on your
bigger
way home from work.
comparisons than,
Yeah.
but yeah.
but
exactly.
yeah, and I think a lot of that too, I mean, we could obviously drill down even further. I think it's a season of life that a particular family unit or individual's in. Because, as we became empty nesters, we find ourselves doing a lot more shopping here locally because just the time to drive, the fuel costs and everything else. So, when you pencil it out, it's like, we're really not saving that much more. But those with large families,
Buy in bulk.
yes.
Mm.
So our next thing was EDC goals and objectives. I don't know how far we want to dive into that since we kind of put that on the agenda for John and Pat and they're not here. So if we want to touch on it briefly and then, or just table it till next time.
It's up to you all.
I'd like to weigh in if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Because we had a little email exchange, I'm thinking last minute here about, I hadn't looked in to see there were goals and objectives on here. I think I just personally struggle with, what's expected of EDC. And we had Jack Hendricks here that I mentioned today. And what is he expecting for us to do on the South Overlay
Mhm.
project? Then you mentioned today the comprehensive plan, and maybe I just think in terms of what's my checklist? What's a 1-page, 2-page executive summary of what am I supposed to be doing? Or what can we be thinking about?
Right, and in the comprehensive plan, I included it in the packet. We have stakeholders and kind of assignments within the comp plan, for different action items, and the EDC is called out on many of those, especially in the business area. And so funny enough, we actually had this conversation exactly a year ago, when we reviewed the comprehensive plan and strategic plan. I feel like it's been a long time and also fast that it's been a year. But back when we talked about that, the EDC wanted to focus on art, tourism, business development, industrial, specifically bioscience, as it's called out in the comp plan, and community partnerships. I think based on kind of the discussion, if we want to get a little bit more specific of what exactly people want to work on in those areas. I know I've talked with Cynthia about doing a future work session with the EDC and the Board of Aldermen to kind of help hone in on those of what you guys see as your goals and priorities, and do those match the Board of Aldermen, or would they like you to look at something different? And then with the South Overlay District, we have the RFQ posted on the website right now. And once the Board of Aldermen select a award for a consultant for us to do that project, part of the task is to have a public engagement and stakeholder process. And then the consultant would be coming to EDC meetings to talk about, okay, what do you see in this area for the South Overlay Employment District? So there are things coming with EDC. I think just right now, if you guys have anything specific that you would like to work on, we can talk about that at a future meeting, or we can go over the comprehensive plan again at the next meeting, and kind of dive deeper into that.
And I think everyone wants to do more, but I also don't know whether or not this is really an action-oriented committee. I think a lot of it is we're supposed to be doing what we're doing today with the oversight. We're supposed to, at least for me, like maybe we're supposed to be looking at things like trends, and then if things aren't going in the right direction, then we start bringing that up and being like, the replica data is showing that we're less than last year for how many people are shopping in town. And then I think we could probably bring that to the board and be like, something's going on that needs to be looked at more, because the data we're looking at is showing that we're not moving towards those 2030 goals.
Mhm.
I mean, so far we are, but that's a part, I think, of what this committee might be for.
And I would say the city already has the data. They don't need us to review it. I mean, it's kind of evident based on just looking at the data. Gina puts it together. And I'm disagreeing with you, but I'm trying not to make a big deal out of it. For me, it's just who gives us direction, because otherwise we can all work on our own pet projects as long as it fits with under the umbrella of the comprehensive plan. But are we supposed to be initiating efforts that fall under that comprehensive plan umbrella, or is the city or the alderman supposed to be telling us what to do, or are we more of a passive group waiting for something to happen? And I think when just my tendency, because of my business development background, is to be a bit more proactive, and I've kind of struggled with, under the framework of EDC, how do I become more proactive?
So ultimately, it is an advisory committee to the Board of Aldermen. And that's why I hinted at, I would like a work session at a future meeting with the Board of Aldermen for them to provide more direction, kind of align goals of what you're working on, or what you as a group are interested in, and how that matches with what the board sees. But right now, our direction is, we have this comprehensive plan. It's outlined specific areas that the EDC is a part of. So if you are proactive in a certain area where you're like, this is what I'm really interested in for like business development, nothing's stopping you for being proactive in that area and bringing updates to this group.
Yeah, the concern I have, and I appreciate you saying that, Gina, I completely understand that. Sometimes business development people can be bulls in china closets. They go out and stir up the dust, and it's not really in the right pig pen. So I just want to make sure there's clarity for us and clarity for me specifically as to where I can go stir up the dust that is in the right arena.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I'm just completing my third year as an elected official, and prior to that, I sat on EDC. Of course, our chairwoman's been part of EDC for a long time, but what I'm encouraged, Stephen, is the amount of groundwork we've covered, specifically the last 2 years. And I'm sure that everybody has a little bit different opinion, but part of that too is just being aware of these resources, one, the strategic plan, and then two, working together. We've seen some tremendous movement in businesses and interest in what's going on, not just with the data center, but with development. I mean, we have a wonderful development going on at Fairview Crossings North, where you've got a building that's got fully occupied before it's even open. And that didn't just happen. Um, and I get where you're coming from because I think strategically a lot of times too, and you know, you kind of want to lay it out, but I think we should give ourselves some credit for one, educating ourselves, establishing kind of some programs and not be as hard on ourselves, but you know, really Gina is our staff liaison, really trying to direct us back to the strategic plan and try to operate around those. But like she said, you know, we can keep talking to businesses but that's my 2 cents anyway. So I'd be interested in hearing from the rest of the EDC.
I agree with you. I understand where you're coming from because it does kind of feel like we're in a holding pattern a lot. But I do think it is nice that we come together every month and we go over the data that we have and, you know, we can put new business on the agenda or, you know, whoever emails Gina and I the week prior, whenever it is, and kind of get the ball rolling on some things that may not otherwise come to fruition.
You mentioned,
Okay.
Gina, about doing a review of the comprehensive plan or strategic plan. I'd like to see that put on the action item for next month.
Okay. Yeah. And then just a comment, I look to you all to help set the agenda. I'm the staff liaison, so I am here to help you. So if there's a certain topic you guys really want to dive into or have, you know, we've had some guest speakers, really, I just look to you all to let me know and I will help to coordinate it.
You're doing a fine job, Gina. You really are.
I agree.
Yeah.
Agreed. Anybody else have any input on that last one? No? Okay. So we have Steve's new business. Does anyone else have any new business to add? No. Okay, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I will make a motion to adjourn the EDC meeting.
Second. Does anyone want to make a second? Sorry, I didn't ask in a question.
I'll second, I second the beginning, I'll second the end here.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.